For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Thanks for tuning in at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes. Well, I hope you had a great holiday week, or weekend anyway, and Canada Day, Canada 150 was a week ago now, last Saturday, and 4th of July was on Tuesday. Great that the two countries both got a holiday weekend for totally unrelated holidays, similar in nature anyway, but certainly it was great to spend Canada 150 in my homeland, and great to see the Americans somewhat coming together for 4th of July. Now, here's the deal. When I was growing up in Canada, my brothers, my parents, we looked at 4th of July ceremonies as like really cool and lots of flag waving, and they've got parades and they do all these things. And to me, it made me feel that Canadians weren't very patriotic. We were sort of envious. Again, when I'm saying we, I meant my family. We were sort of envious that, like, why aren't people like that here? Like, we just don't people like being Canadian? Like, why is this such a non-thing here? And so maybe it was the campaign for 150. Maybe it was the political climate. And, you know, again, I don't talk politics on this show. I'm not involved. I'm not a Trump basher. I'm not a Hillary supporter. I know when I've made a joke or two about Trump on Twitter, people just still go and say that I'm a Hillary supporter. It's like, I'm Canadian. I didn't care what you guys were doing down there. So I'm not sure if it was the Canada 150 campaign or just the political climate that made people go, you know what, we're really lucky to be Canadian. And obviously I've heard that quite a bit since the election in the States in, well, I guess November and then more so in January. But I think that it just made people realize, like, we might have some complaints about our own country or where we live. And this goes for any country. I'm not comparing Canada and the United States, but it certainly does make you go, when you see other things happening in other countries, it does make you feel better about where you live. Now, again, depending on where you live, you might not feel that way. But it was just, I was so proud to be Canadian on Saturday, July 1st, and every day, really. But just to have the Canadian flags, I was out walking my dogs for a brief time, and you do see flags come out on Canada Day. I'm not saying that they're a rare sight, but there were just a lot more of them out, and people wearing red. And when I was out walking, and it's not uncommon depending on the neighborhood, but will have people say hi as they walk by you. That's just being nice and what people do. And so it was just great to have people say Happy Canada Day as they walk by you and they don't know you and you're never going to see them again. And there was just a sense of community and fun and celebration and enjoyment. And it was great. So happy Canada Day, happy 4th of July. And go body slam a TV network if you have some time. I'm not going to talk about that. You Trump body slamming. I said he's as good at video editing as he is as presidenting. And then what was my other tweet last weekend? Something about, and the award for most time on his small hands during his presidency goes to. So anyway, happy holidays. Happy holidays to you. I also, by the way, speaking of the holiday weekend, had a new book come out. And I don't know that we had any sort of full-on mention of it on this show, nor did we really do any promotion of it. And here's the deal. What happened was, last summer, I was writing a book. It was a bunch of silly, sarcastic stories from my life. And what happens when I write, and what I've actually heard a lot of writers do, is I wrote it, and I put it away. I didn't look at it again. It was not shown to anybody. Nobody knew what I had written in it. Some people knew, like, sort of the general concept or the premise of the book, but I did not show anybody any of the chapters or the words that were written. And so I put it away it was seriously probably about 7 or 8 months. And I'm just like that. And I didn't think of it, because you just have to sort of get it out of your mind, not think about it, because when you're writing, you're in that moment. And I didn't want to go back and proofread it because I wouldn't be able to catch the errors because it was still so fresh that I'd written it, that I would see the words for what they were meant to be. So I would see the word, I wouldn't see the typo. I would read the word for what it's supposed to mean. And so I really didn't do anything with it. And I'm not kidding. It was actually when I had come home one day and I'd printed it all out after I wrote it. And it stayed in a plastic bag in a folder by my back door. And it stayed on the ground. Every time the dogs would come in from outside, they would look at it and go, like, what is this thing? Like, it was just a bag sitting there. And that's just where it's very strange. It was so weird. And so finally this spring I came back around to it. I read it again. I added a chapter. I took one out. Or actually I added 2 chapters or 3 chapters. I took one out. And then I proofread it again. And then I was ready for people to take a look at it and edit it and do whatever. But it's so closely guarded when you're doing it. And then we had picked a release date for the spring, but then we had some programming or something had happened where it just didn't make sense. The timing was bad. So the spring release didn't happen. And then we said, okay, well, summer. And then we just had these like busy weeks of stuff or things going on that there wasn't time to promote it properly. So the book was released on Canada Day, a great day when people are not at a mall shopping because they're closed. And I don't know why exactly we did that, but it ended up, well, I know why we did it. We didn't have any other weekends or weeks that we could do it. So it came out, it's called Multiple Sarcasm. You can check it out at multiplesarcasm.com and on iTunes and Amazon. And it's just a collection of like silly stories of things that have happened to me in my life, and I'll tell you a few of them now. One weekend, a couple years ago, I was, like most people my age, no, not even, it's just me. People when they're 60 years old, maybe they're like this. It was about 8:30, 9 o'clock on a Saturday, and of course I'm curled up on the couch, ready for bed. I'm nodding off as I'm watching whatever it is, 48 Hours or something, and I start to hear music from across the way. Few whores down, a few houses down, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, well, it's just one song. This is their favorite song, and they're blasting it. Then another one, and then I started to realize that these songs aren't exactly the radio version. So what am I hearing? What is this? So I went to the window, like a good neighbor, to listen, and it was actually a karaoke party. And not really knowing that at the time, I just kind of thought, okay, well, maybe it's just somebody singing along. But they're singing into a microphone as well. So this isn't just one song, and they're going to haul everything outside to sing one song, and that's it. Turns out it was a karaoke bash in the yard. And so, when you're shushing them from the window, they can't hear you because their music is a little bit louder than that. So I, after a few songs, decided to make my way over there and interrupt the party. And you can read about how that went in the book Multiple Sarcasm, but that's just one of the stories that's in there. Another one, when I was doing a work trip with somebody when I was a managing editor at a publishing company. She was kind of a not quite together salesperson there. And she's one of those employees that isn't really good at biting her tongue. And if you were going to a client meeting with her, you were kind of a little bit nervous that, oh crap, she's going to say something that she doesn't realize is unprofessional and inappropriate, but it really, really is. And so we were there for a convention for one of our clients. And the client, brings us out there, pays for the hotel and all this other stuff, and pays us to be there. And normally, again, a professional would bite their tongue and just give pleasant answers, right? And smile and nod. So if we went for dinner to a restaurant they chose, or if they provided us dinner and you hated the food, you're still going to say it was great, right? And it was no different about our hotel stay. And she did everything that she was not supposed to do. She was smoking in her room. My room was across from her. When she was smoking, the smoke was coming under my door and into my room, so it smelled like I was smoking in my room. I've never touched a cigarette, never even physically touched a cigarette in my life, so it was not me smoking. But there's a lot of fines, right? There's charges if you are caught smoking or whatever in a hotel room. And so when we got together for the final dinner and she was asked about, how are you guys liking the hotel? She didn't hold back of saying that the water was terrible and the soap made her skin itchy and this was bad and that was bad. And the guy from our client from the office that we were working with, he did one of those, I just made eye contact with somebody across the room, I'm going to walk over there. And I actually kept watching him, and he did not even go to speak to anybody specifically. That was just his way out. where he wanted to just go and end the awkwardness. And there was even more. Her purse caught on fire. And the best part, the climax, this is why it's called Multiple Sarcasm. The climax of the story is when we were at the airport coming back and we're waiting in line at security. And this was shortly after 9/11, so security lines were very, very long. She turns to me and lets me know that she has drugs on her. And she asks me what she should do. What would you do in that situation? You're with a coworker at an airport. Now, we're talking federal offense, right? Because you're at an airport. And she says, I have drugs on me. What would you do? What would you do? So, that story is in the book called Multiple Sarcasm. You can check it out at multiplesarcasm.com and on Amazon and iTunes. It is a very funny book, and I'm not just saying that because I wrote it. We've had a few people go through it, and we're just like, oh my God. There's a chapter in there called The Northern Hoe. I'm going to tell you about that right after this.
Airfares go up and down more than planes themselves. Pricearazzi.travel has you covered when flight prices change on Expedia.com. If the prices drop, you'll be sure to know about it. There's already so much to remember when you travel, and you shouldn't have to worry about paying more than you needed to on your flights. Let Pricearazzi.travel keep an eye on that for you. Your biggest concern should be if you've packed enough money to buy all the trinkets you really don't need, or if your swimsuit shows off enough skin in all the right places, or that while you are away, the kids have enough food in the kennel and that the dogs get to school on time. Wait, flip those last two. Simply register your email address with Pricearazzi.travel and then book your flights on Expedia.com. Your itineraries are automatically sent to Pricearazzi, and you could do your happy dance if the flight becomes cheaper in 24 hours. Better yet, you could actually end up flying for free. And who doesn't love free, right? Find out how to save on your Expedia flights at Pricearazzi.travel. Avoid bank account turbulence and sign up now at Pricearazzi.travel.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Jeremy Bradley here on the Scribble podcast. Thanks for tuning in at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes. We are talking about my new book today. Woohoo! It's called Multiple Sarcasm. We did absolutely no promotion leading up to it, and me, who is the shameless self-promoter, you're probably surprised that you have not really heard about this book until days after it was released. And again, we just had some really bad scheduling issues, and for some reason somebody thought it was going to be the perfect time to release it during a long weekend, but nobody's reading and nobody's shopping in the mall. And because the malls are closed in Canada on Canada Day. But it's called Multiple Sarcasm. You can check it out on Amazon, iTunes, and multiplesarcasm.com. The Northern Hoe is a chapter in there, and it was actually the very first chapter that I wrote. And it does a bit of slut-shaming, as you'd call it. And when it was read through after, and it's a funny chapter, but one of the editors had said, probably not a very good chapter to open with, because it does make some not-so-friendly comments about a woman. And she, much like the other coworker I was just mentioning in the last segment, we were doing a work travel show for our radio broadcasts, and I brought her along as an assistant. And she was everybody else's assistant. And by assistant, I mean ass attendant. She had tears at the airport before we even left. What is it with me being at airports with other people? This is why I like to travel alone. She was in tears at the airport because she didn't realize that her makeup was liquids and she had just spent $200 on makeup and was told either throw it out or send it to yourself in the mail. And she was in tears. Called her husband at 6 a.m, who drove us to the airport, and told him to come all the way back and pick up her makeup and take it home. And he refused. And she was swearing at him and crying. I had gone through security at this point and was like totally reclined back with my head staring at my face, eyes at the ceiling, going, oh, what am I in for? And people were surprised that I was actually going with her, people who know her and have worked with her before. And I thought, it's going to be fine. She's professional. She's going to be okay. And there were tears at the airport. And then she's telling me off. And again, much like that coworker I was mentioning earlier, who you kind of worry, oh, are they going to bite their tongue? Are they going to say something inappropriate when you're supposed to be professional and dealing with somebody else? And absolutely. And I mention her husband, but I don't really mention her husband when she's sleeping with 2 people on the trip. Actually, I think I do. But in a way of like, oh, this poor bastard doesn't know what he's missing. And one of the people that she's sleeping with is one of the tourism people, who is actually our chauffeur and our chaperone and our escort and our meal planner and our activity director and our everything, our tour guide, everything. By the end of it, she's banging him. But the sweetest part was that she had a hookup. And the next day, the guy, also married, wouldn't even make eye contact with her. And we were going on a trip. We were at the airport in the smallest departure lounge ever. And there's 1 seat open beside us. And I say, should we get him over here? Should I call him? Here, you can sit down over here. He wouldn't even look in her direction. Wouldn't even look. And it's funny because at first, she was sort of embarrassed to see him. But I think she was waiting for him to look over and acknowledge. And the fact that he didn't, even though they had no intentions of ever talking again or seeing each other again, there was still part of her that wanted, and I know which part, that wanted him to at least wink or smile, acknowledge her existence. And he wouldn't even do that. And it was delicious, because we were on a small plane as well. And he was seated directly in front of her, to the left, just diagonally in front of her. And that entire flight, he did not look to the side, he did not look back. At all. And she even tested. She went up to go to the bathroom at the front of the plane and walked all the way back and just stared him down the entire time. Stared him down! He didn't even look at her. And that was so frickin' delicious to me. It was great. Because the culmination of these 4 days of drama with her, and how she was so focused on enjoying a free trip and not the task at hand, which was producing a nationally syndicated radio show, highlighting and showcasing this destination and all the people and the places here. And it was just great. It was great to experience that. So you can read that story. Again, the chapter is called The Northern Hoe, and it's in the book called Multiple Sarcasm. MultipleSarcasm.com, and on Amazon and iTunes. This is The Scribble. You're listening to Jeremy Bradley.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. So while we are shamelessly self-promoting my projects today, again, multiplesarcasm.com, my new book. It's Multiple Sarcasm and then stories dripping in it, if you wanted to take a look. The cover, by the way, I thought of myself, that concept. I didn't design it myself. It's a caricature of me holding a book dripping, and dripping white stuff in the middle. Get it? Multiple Sarcasm, stories dripping in it. I had the idea, and people thought, oh my god, that's crazy. But when it comes to book covers, you know, as the writer, you want to deal with the words. You might not necessarily want the input as to what's on the cover. And if you do get like a massive book deal, you really don't have a choice. You've got the publisher that's deciding all those things. But there's something fun about designing a cover when you're the author. And I've insisted, I've actually done it with all of my books. With the official guide to being a Winnipeg cheapskate, I actually photoshopped and did everything myself. I did it all on my own. And yeah, I just decided this was this is the idea in my mind that I have. I want to see me sitting there holding a book with stuff dripping. And we had a caricature made, and it was really, really cool. So check it out on Amazon, iTunes. It's called Multiple Sarcasm. Now, last weekend, when the book came out, we also were on the radio, streaming live, actually, at CanadaDayLive.ca. And we had music artists from every province and territory in Canada on the show talking about their favorite Canadian music, places, moments, things, what have you. And the concept was, for Canada 150, we were going to have 150 minutes of this show. And I had the idea I guess it's July now, so in mid-May, I had the idea. I was on the couch and I thought, And I believe we talked about it on the show last week, that this was going to be happening. And being a live event, but not on a radio station, we didn't have that time constraint. We didn't have somebody going, we've got a minute and a half before we're done. And it's different on a radio show as it is, like, let's say, for an award show on TV or a sporting event on TV, that you can go overtime. And if you go overtime for an award show by 10 minutes, okay. If it's the Oscars, they will allow 30 minutes over. But if it's this was just an event that, So we decided not to go on an actual radio station. We were going to stream it for ourselves on this website, CanadaDayLive.ca. And it was really cool. We had, like, the studio, we had decorations galore, we had food and booze. It was just a really cool setup. And all of these artists, we worked from east to west, and we went province to province, territory to territory, talking with all these guests. And we had it all mapped out. We knew, actually, before going into it, that the show would not be 150 minutes. We actually knew that we were going to be over, just with the guests that we had booked. There were some other elements in there where we were talking about some of the destination broadcasts that we've done, as you just heard about the Northern Ho. And so we knew it was going to be over. We didn't know by how much. We thought maybe it would be close to the 180-minute mark, so 3 hours, but it went a little bit longer than that. But finally, halfway through and a couple drinks in, I just said, you know what, the best parties don't end on time, so let's just keep going. We can't just stop, right? We can't go and line up all these guests and go, you know what, sorry, 2 celebrity guests. We don't have time for this. We have to go. So it was just something, we just ran with it. You can still hear the full show at CanadaDayLive.ca, and the different artist interviews are on there on a page called The Artists, and you can just listen to the individual chats if you want. And so we had everybody, Terry Clark and the Bare Naked Ladies, and Alan Doyle from Great Big Sea, and Dean Brody, and Susan Glukark, and so many others. Rock Cuisine, Cody Prevost. There's a lot that I'm not going to name all of them, but you can check it out, CanadaDayLive.ca. It was really fun to do the show, and live radio is fun. Any kind of a live broadcast, and if you talk to actors who do theater on the stage, right, they enjoy the live element of it too, because you don't know what's going to happen. Something could screw up. You could have, in our instance, you could have technical difficulties. Well, I guess any instance, the lighting or whatever could not work during a Broadway show, and things like that happen, and how do you deal with it? So we had no hiccups, believe it or not one hiccup. It all went off, just not on time. And so check it out, CanadaDayLive.ca. And you can listen to our 3-hour and some minute broadcast. And it was really eye-opening. And I thought the same thing going into it, though. You're going to have 14 guests. We should have only had 13, but we had a couple extras, or one extra. And what are you going to ask them? Are you going to ask every single person, what's your favorite food? Where's your favorite place to go? But we ended up just having some really good discussions. So it's certainly not the same questions for every person. And when I do celebrity interviews, here's a fun fact for you, is that I don't have a list of questions. It always drives me insane when I see on TV shows, on The View or whatever. To me, it just seems disingenuous where you're interviewing somebody about their new album or their new book, and you're reading off a card. And you're saying to them, and I understand last year you did this, and you also did this with so-and-so. It just seems like you don't know anything about the person, and I don't like that kind of an interview, and I've never done that. When I was doing a red carpet in Las Vegas years ago, I could always tell, actually any red carpet, you can always tell who's new, and if it's their first time either interviewing celebrities or being on a red carpet. And there were some people, like the publicists go down the red carpet and they will give you cheat sheets. They'll give you notes to either read or memorize or whatever. And there were so many interviewers, mainly bloggers, because they were on that side of the red carpet, but they were reading off of the little slip of paper. So let's say my group is, called ABC, and my song is called 123, and it just went platinum and whatever. So you've got the person, the interviewer, reporter, interviewing the celebrity or the group, and basically holding the piece of paper out, going, and your new album is called 123, and it just went platinum. Like, if I was being interviewed for that, and I get interviewed for my books and different things all the time, I wouldn't put anybody on the spot, because maybe I would, because I'm a dick like that. But to me, it was just like, oh my God, that just screams that you don't know these people or know anything about what they do. And it just seems so ignorant to me. And so when I do interviews, I will maybe read a bunch of notes beforehand, but I certainly do not face the person with a crap load of like cheat sheets and notes. I will wing it. And I'm doing these radio interviews over the phone, so I really could have a whole bunch of crap written for me, but I just don't, because I want to get into the conversation, and those are the types of interviews that I do. You've heard them here on the podcast. So you can't see us when we're doing the interviews on this show, but just know that I do not have a list of questions in front of me. Nobody gives me them. When I was doing an interview with Kenny Rogers, you might recall we did an interview in his dressing room, I guess it was almost 2 years ago, and before I left to go to the show, we had a bunch of questions written down for me, and I left them on the table, and I said, at the very last minute, before going and before heading out the door, I said, you know what? Not taking them, because now I'm going to be relying on them. And even still, it just seems so disingenuous when you're sitting there with a music legend. If you don't know what to talk to him about, well, then you're in the wrong business. You really shouldn't be interviewing celebrities. And so in my head on the way there, I'm like, okay, I'm going to ask about this, going to segue into this, talk about this. And even then, I was still really preparing, which I don't do. I don't know why. There was just something about that interview where I thought, okay, I'm going to either screw up or I'm going to stumble and it's going to be bad. And I didn't take the cheat sheets or the questions with me, and we just did it, and it was 9 minutes. And if you've never interviewed somebody before, this is where I say to people, it can be an incredibly long time. When we're doing the radio interviews, we often do 4-minute segments, and if it's not somebody that you know anything about, because I have interviewed a lot of people and not know a damn thing about them, maybe not even have known their name prior to this, it's a really long 4 minutes. And I would actually sit here silently for 4 minutes just for you to see how long it is, but you can always just fast forward and not actually use that time. So, but I challenge anybody, and this is maybe why people depend on those cheat sheets, those cue cards, but it's a really long time if you don't know anything about the person. But I always just say a really good interviewer, though, is going to fill that time and have some engaging conversation, whether you know the person or not. So I challenge you, if you meet somebody on the street, although you could be viewed as weird, or you might be pepper sprayed or punched in the face if you just start randomly asking a stranger all these questions, but definitely try it out. Even if it's somebody that you know, or your coworker, your friend, when you're bored on a rainy day at home or something, just try to have like an interviewee type conversation with somebody, not so social, but more an interview, and just see if you can get through 3 minutes even of just asking. Or even if you think about it right now, maybe it's your friend's spouse or one of your in-laws who you've never talked with before. Sit and think about it. Could I actually have a 4-minute conversation even though I don't know anything about them? And the purpose of an interview, I would think, for a lot of people, is to get to know the person, right? I want to hear about your new album. I want to talk to you about your new show that you're on, and just go with it. But I'll admit there were times where I really didn't know a damn thing about the person and had to just wing it. So there you are, CanadaDayLive.ca. After all that, to hear our Canada Day broadcast, CanadaDayLive.ca.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate, at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate, at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. Let's recap all of those links you've been hearing today. You can go to canadadaylive.ca and check out the 3-hour and some minute broadcast we did for celebrating Canada 150. canadadaylive.ca, and the new book, I hope you get it. I think you're going to have a laugh. Like it says on the back, despite what we see, the dreadful news and the drama and politics and all that other stuff, so this is a book just to make you laugh. Check out Multiple Sarcasm at multiplesarcasm.com, and on Amazon and iTunes and a whole bunch of other digital booksellers, multiplesarcasm.com. The book is Multiple Sarcasm. My name is Jeremy Bradley. I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some real heat,